In this video, we're going to go through the construction of the floating crystal prop. The floating crystal comes in two different sizes. We're going to be building the smaller of the two, and the construction method is going to be the same regardless of which size you build, so you should be able to follow along either way. I'm going to break this up into multiple parts. So we'll first build a base for the crystal. Then we're going to work on the harness for the crystal. And finally, we're going to build one of the crystals themselves. So let me go through and show you some of the crafting tools we're going to be using. I have a cork-backed ruler for making nice straight cuts and score lines. I've got a snap blade knife. I've got a number of different markers that I'll be using to color in the edges of things. You can also get away with a gray or a black marker if you want to do everything in one color. And I'm going to mostly be using some white glue, but I'll also be using a glue stick for some parts. All right, so let me get prepared and we will start with the base. All right, the base is designed in three sections. We have the top layer, which has the texture on it. It also has three narrow slots that we're going to be cutting out. The middle layer, which has three larger slots to cut out. And then the bottom layer here. I'm going to cut around all of the square parts. And let's remove the little rectangular slots. These larger slots I'm going to hang on to use during the gluing phase. One next step before we get to gluing, I'm going to edge around the exposed sides here. I like to make sure every edge is covered up. Okay, to glue, I'm going to use my glue stick. We're going to take the bottommost layer and the middle layer, and along the back of it, let's apply some glue to this middle layer. I don't need to get all the way in the corners. That's just going to get cut away. Okay, and to install the top layer, we're going to use more glue on this middle layer, but I want to avoid getting glue inside this slotted area. So I'm going to go and use our cutouts, just kind of shove them back into place. I didn't pay attention to where they came from, but they kind of fit no matter what. This allows me to be a little less careful with the glue. I always make a bit of a mess with the glue stick. I'm going to use my craft knife to just get in and scoop the glue out. Just want to keep glue out of that area so that the harness can slide into place without trouble. So let's get the top installed. And I'm going to need this to dry for a little bit, and I'm going to put it under something flat and heavy to let this dry without warping. And so we're going to have to give that a little time. We'll come back in a few minutes when that's done. Once that base has plenty of time to dry, we're going to go and trim around the edges. I designed this so that it is not perfectly circular, but it has a lot of straight edges that can approximate that curve, and it makes it very easy to go around the base and remove one little section at a time. Nice and easy. I'm going to grab my marker, color around the edges to finish this off. And that's the base. You can make as many as you need, different textures, same texture. Some folks will even print out the additional top and middle layers and just use it right on the reverse side so you can have them double-sided. All right, I'm going to set this aside and then we will get started on the harness. I'm going to tackle the harness in two separate phases. The first, I'm going to do the ropes. These attach to the base that we just made, and then we'll be doing the actual harness wrap that goes around the crystal. I'm going to score down the middle of each section for the ropes here. Okay, before we go any farther, we need to do a little bit more trimming to help us out with the assembly process. On each end of our ropes here, I'm going to do a little bit of cutting out of the excess area. So here at the bottom of our piece are these black tabs that need to be able to fold outward. And that's done with a reverse score. So I find it easy to trim, flip over the piece, and then go from one corner to the other. There we go. On the other end, I'm going to cut just around the metal at the top. Because the way these work, the harness wrap that goes around the crystal rests between these two metal pieces. So we don't want to glue them together. We want to leave those unglued so that we can fold them apart a little bit and have a gap for something to rest between them. And to help me do that, I'm going to take my black pen and I'm going to color in the backs of these sections. That way, when I'm putting glue on the pieces, I'll know to avoid getting any glue there. Glue this together, and again, I will use a glue stick for this, just on one half of the piece. Now I'm going to take this tab and fold it underneath. I'm going to cover one side, avoiding that black area. Then I can fold this in half. And so this is still separate up here, and these bottom flaps fold out. Now I'm going to go and stick this and the other two under something heavy after I've glued them, and then we'll come back in just a second and I'll do the finishing touches. Okay, now that we've given them a little bit of time to dry, we're going to trim away the excess paper. First, I'm going to do it the easy way, and that is to hold my fingers kind of on the inside of the curve here, and I'm going to gently, I'm not going to cut all the way through both layers of paper. I am going to gently follow the curve and then repeat that process a second time. And I find that a two-step process makes it very easy to get a nice clean cut. Okay, now to trim out the remainder, let's repeat the process. I'm still going to hold the inside, follow that curve once and then twice. And it looks great. If you feel compelled to do so, you can try to follow the curve of the texture itself, just taking away a little extra paper here. And I'm going to go and repeat that process on the other ropes as well, and we'll see how that comes out in just a minute. So let's follow along the back side of this rope. Okay, with that cut, I'm going to go and do a little bit of work coloring in the edges here. I found a couple of markers that mimicked the rope color pretty nicely. These are all set. I'm going to go and set them aside, keep them stored under something heavy just to keep the glue from warping the paper while it's continuing to dry. And when I come back, we will work on the actual harness that wraps the crystal. Okay, this harness piece is actually probably the most complicated of all of the pieces of the model. We're going to start by doing our scoring. And this is the texture that faces outward. This is the texture that faces inward. Technically, this is an optional piece. You can simply leave the backside or the inside of the harness exposed if you want, or you can color it in with a marker. I'm going to attach the two so you can see how that would go together. On this outside piece, these long dashed lines are reverse scores. So I will poke a hole on each side of where the score line is going to go. And that'll give me a guide on the back side of the paper where there's no texture printed. And we can score that easily. And technically, all of these lines are also reverse scores. But honestly, for this piece, it doesn't really matter all that much. So you can choose to do them on the back side, or you can just quickly score them on the front. So I'm going to go do the front scores first. And then to reverse score, you can see where those marks are. It gives me some very easy spots to line up my ruler. All right, let's cut these apart now. I'm going to take a moment to edge around the pieces. All right, now we just need to follow the different scores. I feel like I missed a score line there. That's okay, we'll make it work. Okay, so now let's glue this outer piece together. We're going to get the glue process started. And I'm going to use white glue for this. Let's use some scrap paper here. Give myself a little dot of glue. And I just want to glue these two riveted sections together. I'm going to take a little bit of glue, spread it in thin enough so that it's tacky, so that I can squeeze this together. I'm just going to hold it for 5 or so seconds, and we'll move on to the next one. Just the riveted sections for now. And I'm going to leave this other section open. Just makes my life a little bit easier when I go to glue the interior together. And at this point, I'm going to try and remedy the missing score line that I apparently omitted there by just folding this right in half. I know that this should flatten. There we go. That gives me a nice fold line where I need it. It's the nice thing about Papercraft. There's always a way to fix things. This piece is slightly curved. The shorter end goes along the bottom, and the bottom here has this dark coloring. So I'm going to keep that in mind as I go and install this. I'm going to start by putting glue on these first 2 segments. And I'm going to press that first fold right into where that riveted section sticks out. Make sure that gets in nice and snug. And I'm stalling a little bit so that I can give the glue a little bit of time to dry. Now we'll move on to the next 2 segments. Kind of work a little bit at a time. All right, we get towards the end here. Need a little bit more glue. I'm going to do all 3 remaining segments here. And I know I haven't been super careful, but I fold this all the way around to the other edge. Should be able to fold those faces down and find that those riveted pieces that I haven't glued yet should meet at the other side. So let's go, and I'm going to give this a little bit of a squish to make sure that everything is good contact. And then I can fold this last piece open, get a little glue in there, and we'll give that a squeeze. And that's it for the harness. Like I said, it's a little bit more complicated than the other pieces just because it's kind of small parts here. If need be, you can go back and touch things up with a marker. You've got little bits like that sticking out. You can either try to cut it away or just color it in, and that'll hide it just fine. Okay, so that is the harness that the crystal will slip into. So I'm going to sit that to the side, and we'll work on an actual crystal, and then we'll see how it all comes together. So the floating crystal prop comes with 9 styles of crystal. I printed off one sheet because I'm going to go for this nice green one here, this emerald. So I'm going to cut that away from the other 2 just so I can focus on that one. And as is the case with most props, when I start, I'm going to do my scoring first, and then I'm going to cut around each piece. Scores are gentle. And I like to do this before I do the cutting because there's just more paper to hold on to. It's easier for me to get my straight edge in place and make sure that I've got things lined up right. I'm going to be very light along the top and the bottom because I want them to have enough resistance that they'll be pushing against the tips of the crystals when they're pressed in place. With the scoring done, I'm going to take care of the cutting. Most of this I'm going to cut freehand. Okay, with all three crystal segments cut out, I'm going to go ahead and do the edging around the pieces now. Okay, let's start gluing. Let's get the body here started with a little bit of glue on this tab. And then for the ends, we have one triangle that needs to be glued. All right, so I like to start from the larger end first and apply glue to each of the 6 tabs. I'm going to spread it on. And then I'm going to add some glue to the inside of the tip. Just going to press it all the way around just to get all the sides on the interior there sticky. And then I can press the top of my crystal into place, gently working my way around, trying to see that I've got it fairly even all the way around. And now I'm going to hold it in place just to let the glue set for a little bit, and then we'll move on to the other end. Process is the same for the smaller end, where we put glue on each tab. And we'll add plenty of glue on the interior here, mush it all around. Then we'll get the crystal top in place. And this is going to deserve a little extra time to dry. Let that glue set. So we'll come back when that's had a chance to dry and we'll assemble everything. All right, with all the pieces crafted, we can take our base and one at a time, take one of these ropes and slide them right in. This design makes them removable so everything can store flat. And it also allows you to swap them amongst your bases. So you make one set of ropes, you can use it with any number of bases, or maybe you want to swap these out for chains, and you can do that very easily. Now on the tops here, they should separate just slightly. Doing that now. So what we're going to do is we're going to take our harness and slide this. This is just going to rest in place. It's not meant to be glued, although you can certainly glue it if you want a permanently fixed harness. But again, you could make one of these harnesses and swap the chains with the ropes. There we go, and that's just going to rest in place. And then we take our crystal, slide that right in. All right, and there you have it. We have a floating crystal prop. And you can use this in any number of ways. If you do make one of these, we'd love to hear how you use it. So let us know what kind of adventure hooks you might come up with or reasons why you might have a floating crystal in your game.